parents do overvalue their kids' accomplishments. I mean, we praise everything. My son goes to the bathroom, doesn't make a mess. I'm like, thank you, that's such a great job, dude, you did a great job. So we have to be very careful because Mom.me readers tell us there's a fallout. As they get older and they're praised for everything, you have egotistical, self-important, entitled children, and that can be a problem. So parents are skirting a fine line between praising and overpraising.
Our children, pride, joy, our little ball of protoplasm that needs molding and shaping. All too often in the modern world, our little snowflakes, so dainty in need of sheltering from the big bad world. How could they survive without being so shielded? So you want your kid to be a narcissistic whiner, right? Yeah, I didn't think so. Our guest is postdoctoral researcher in developmental psychology at the University of Amsterdam, focusing on research as to how kids view themselves thanks to what parents hand them. Listen up, those providing the next generation. Dr. Brummelman did the work. Among those who looked into parents who overvalue their kids and then raise kids who overvalue themselves. Why is it every parent would probably say, oh, doctor, I'd never do that to my kid?
Yeah, we found it's very common actually for parents to overvalue. And overvalue means seeing your child as more special and more entitled than other kids. And we found that over time, when parents do that very often, it might lead children to develop narcissistic views of themselves.
But what do the parents need to look for here? Okay, because every parent loves their kids. They want the best for them. So what did the study find that there were those little indicators that tell you that your kid is becoming a narcissist and you're kind of overdoing it?
Yeah, there's an important difference between valuing your child, loving your child, and seeing your child as a very important human being, which is very healthy. And overvaluation, which means seeing your child as more special and more entitled than others, more entitled than other children. And this might give children the feeling that they are superior to others, which is the key belief underlying narcissistic traits. So that's the difference. So on the one hand, valuing your child, which is healthy, and overvaluing, which is comparing your child to others and seeing your child as superior to others.
So then, as parents, do we need to then tell the kids, look, you're not any better than anybody else, you're not special, but every parent wants to tell their kids that they're special. That seems to be an almost impossible thing to do. You want to bring your kid up, but you want to raise them up, you want to make them feel good about themselves, but you don't want to overdo it.
Yeah, what I would suggest is, of course, you can tell your child that he or she is special, but without comparing your child to other kids. So, of course, children know that they are special to their parents, but as much as other kids are special to their parents.
Basically, what you're saying is make the kid understand that everybody is special in their own right, but you're not any better than anybody else.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The thing that catches me in the study was to point out that narcissism is not a disorder that people do or do not have. This is a learned trait, correct?
No, it's not only learned, it's also partly genetic. So about 50% of narcissism is determined by genes. But it's not a disorder. Just like how open or extroverted you are, narcissism is a trait that goes from very low to very high, and most people are somewhere in the middle.
Is it fair to say that parents, most of the time, don't even recognize it when they're forcing their kids into narcissism?
I think it often goes unconsciously. Of course, parents, they praise their kids with all the best of intentions. But sometimes, without them even knowing, they might overvalue. And I think, therefore, it's important to recognize the difference between overvaluing and valuing your child.
What is it that constitutes as overpraise? What's that line, you think?
Yeah, that's different from overvaluation. So we found that parents who overvalue, they also overpraise. And praise is actually expressing very positive views of your child to the child. And we found that parents who overvalue do that 60% more often than other parents. And they also do it when children don't perform that well. So they praise kids regardless of how well they are actually doing.
And I guess it's also important to point out that if you overvalue, you turn your kid into a narcissist, you're going to hurt them down the road when it comes down to education and also getting ahead in life in many ways, right?
Yeah, narcissism can have very negative consequences for children, but it's also important to point out that the relationship between overvaluation and the development of narcissistic traits is not strong. So it's part of the part of the story, what explains narcissistic traits, but it's definitely not the most important one. So genetics is obviously the most important one, and overvaluation adds to that, but it can be changed. And if you recognize it in yourself as a parent, you can, of course, change your parenting practices to prevent children from developing narcissistic traits.
We would recommend that parents look for this study at the University of Amsterdam in the Netherlands and also Ohio State University. It's fascinating. Learn something about yourself and about your kids at the same time. Dr. Eddie Brummelman, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. Hey, what about you? How much praise do you cast on your children? Are you now going to rethink that? Let us know. Go to newsmax.com/comments, and maybe don't spend too much time with the little snowflakes. Lend them into some reality. Stay with us. We question everything right here on MidPoint.